there were three main reasons I moved back to Wairika, and one was I was in financial dire straits. I was not getting ahead. Things were not working. Everything in Arizona was like, except for the wonderful friends that I made in my ward, and the opportunity. It's like the Mormon land of opportunity there, which is awesome, but except for all that, like every sign was pointing, just go, I wasn't able to hold a job, and that had never happened before. Too much of my nightlife was about him. He would text me and, hey, I'm getting sleepy, ... Just a bunch of Z's, and that was his code to like come on over kind of thing. The coast is clear, So, and that was just, I lived 5 minutes away, 10, maybe 10, depending, and it was just too convenient and too easy, and it was fun, and we had fun when we were together, and so it wasn't healthy, and I totally agree with that. So that was one of the financially I wasn't doing well. I missed my family. I moved away shortly after high school, and I come back to visit, but I realized over the years I've missed out on a lot of things with my little brother and sister. Missed out on just their karate or their baseball or cheerleading or just whatever. And my dad is not doing well. He doesn't think he has very long to live, but he always says that. It's been that way for like a decade. He's still here, thank goodness. My grandparents aren't getting any younger, and I just have an awesome family. And I wanted to be able to just be here for a little bit and regroup financially. I owe my parents a lot of money, and I owe my grandparents a lot of money, and I owe friends money. I owe my the guy that I bought a house with, I owe him a lot of money. He doesn't ask me for it, but I intend to pay him back because he really footed the bill on the mortgage for a few months. And the third reason, and I like to put this third because I like to think that second to those reasons I would have been strong enough somehow, but the third reason was to put a physical distance between Travis and I, because I know that he really liked Mimi, and he said he did. I kind of felt guilty. I mean, I know they weren't dating, but I just felt guilty somehow, and I didn't know Ryan at the time. I met him in March in Oklahoma City, and it was just brief, and I remember seeing him and saying, oh, I really want to go say hi to him, but he was surrounded by people, and he was kind of unapproachable. And he says he remembers meeting me too, and it wasn't until Zion, my friend, texted me, and I think I told you that.
And this is all after you broke out.
Oh, yeah.
Broke up with Travis, everything was all over.
As far as the timeline, it was kind of a mutual thing, but I sort of more broke up with him.
Yeah.
And it was hard to do because I really loved him, but I just realized that without trust, you can't have anything, and I had violated his trust.
Is that the main reason you guys broke up? Is the trust?
Trust. I think that there's
not that the relationship was unhealthy because of the sexual activity, promiscuity, but just that you guys couldn't trust each other.
I think that, and this doesn't make it right, I think that, being a convert, I've had a couple of serious relationships before where I was intimate with a few people, and it's kind of silly, but I used to always joke that regardless of what the Bible says, and yes, I'm Christian, I just live my life by the 10 Commandments, and those are my rules. Thou shalt not this or that, but it doesn't say thou shalt not fornicate. So I just used to joke about that, and it's a bad philosophy. I think that with Travis, there was a part of me that felt really guilty because there was something inside that thought this is nice for instant gratification, but you're destroying what you could have with Travis. And that's why we did pray about it. I remember we knelt by his bed once, and surprisingly he suggested it. Normally, I would suggest that we pray before we go on a trip or before we eat, if we're alone.
It was kind of unusual for him, huh?
Yeah, because he was very resistant to prayer with me. I mean, I think in church it would have been fine, and I feel that maybe because we were driving away the Spirit constantly. Or maybe he felt that by inviting the Spirit, he would feel guilty about later on in the evening, or I don't know what the deal was. Or the excuse he used was because I'm a convert, I need more practice saying prayers. He's like, so I'd say, will you say a prayer? He's like, why don't you say a prayer? Why don't you say a prayer? Why don't you say a prayer? So we'd go back and forth, and I don't know, it's just one time when I was on a trip at Havasu Pie, we were all getting on the road, and I think it was with Dan Freeman and his sister Desiree, and they were all like, Jodi, will you say a prayer? And I said, sure, and Travis was like, anyway, I didn't want to argue with them. So, anyway, what was I saying?
Well, he's, the whole trust issue keeps coming back into my mind.
That was the big reason.
He was a big time flirt, and that's the one thing everybody says about him. He flirts a lot. Does he mean anything by it? No, not really. That's just who he is. He did have, girlfriends here or there, and he was at a point in his life where he wanted to really start settling down. He felt like he needed to kind of grow up, become a husband, become a father. That time had come, and he felt that time had come and gone, and he was falling behind.
He told me that too. He said he felt like his time was running out, and I told him that, despite the fact that he's not going to be in a singles ward very much longer, he still has a lot of options. He's still a very eligible bachelor. And he just didn't see it that way. He was like, you don't understand. He's like, that might be true, but my chances are severely reduced once I turn 31. It was like this ticking time bomb.
Finding a good Mormon girl, was difficult because in that church, that most of the girls get married in early 20s.
Yeah. He said he didn't want to marry a girl in her early 20s because he said that he noticed a lot of pattern in the church with girls that married between 19 and 24, so to speak, would they'd start having babies and growing their family, and then they would look at their single girlfriends who were still having fun with no responsibilities, and they would regret getting married. And I think if you're strong in the church, that's not so much a problem, but...
Yeah, depends on who you surround yourself with, too. If you surround yourself with the right people, it's a different story. But, that's where he was. And did you guys ever discuss possibly getting married or anything?
When we were dating, we did.
Okay.
Once we broke up, he brought it up. He actually proposed to me a lot of times, but he wasn't serious. I think he was serious once, and it was when we broke up. And that was really hard because we were on the phone, and it was just like none of that stuff should be done on the phone anyway, but I was hundreds of miles away. And I told him that I loved him. We didn't say I love you during our relationship, but we said it afterward. It was weird.
Okay.
I said, this isn't, breaking up with him on the phone wasn't really the way I wanted to do it, but it was kind of a situation that had just come to a point where it just couldn't be ignored anymore. And
well, let's move to after the breakup.
Oh, okay.
What kept you in Mesa at that point?
I actually moved to Mesa a few weeks after we broke up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, as far as the timeline goes. But, I mean, if you want to call it our official breakup, shortly thereafter, it's like we were still seeing each other.
So you guys were seeing each other, but it was a long distance type relationship.
It was always long distance when we were officially dating. We dated from about the beginning of February to about the end of June. So
Okay.
February, March, April, May, June, about 5 months total.
Okay. In June of 2007, you guys broke up, and then
June
you moved to
29th.
Mesa.
Yeah, I moved to Mesa sort of.
Most people, when they break up, they kind of go their
I
own
know,
way.
and plans were already in order for me to move there. I was already speaking with a friend who was, was going to be her roommate, and I was her roommate for a short time.
Mhm.
She's kind of flighty. She's a great girl, though. I had talked to Travis about maybe going to Southern California instead,
Okay.
and he's really persuasive.
They persuade you to stay there in Mesa.
He kind of was playing up all the advantages if I did come to Mesa, and if I did, he said, you know, it's a great place. We could still see each other and hang out on occasion. This church is very strong. You know, you'll make a lot of friends. And I already knew all this stuff prior because we talked about that. You know, and so I went ahead and just made the move. It sounded at the time like a good idea.
And you guys continued to kind of see each other at that time?
Yeah, at the time I was sort of living more across town over by Greenfield. Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
It was up Greenfield near Broadway. Greenfield and Broadway were the nearest cross streets. And that's where the girl that I was originally talking with, I moved in with her.
Yeah, it's kind of far from
Yeah.
Travis.
Yeah. The thing about her, and just to give you a background of why I moved suddenly, she approached me the weekend after I got there and said, hey, she knocked on my door, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. And she moved in with her boyfriend, and they were engaged.
Okay.
And she said, hey, I just wanted to let you know that Scott and I went to Vegas last weekend to tie the knot. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, we haven't told anyone, but we didn't want to live in sin, so we're gonna, and she had already been sealed in the temple once and was waiting for her cancel, or
Yeah.
her
sealing to be
to be canceled. So they were gonna have a civil wedding, on the beach in Oregon, and they did that the following weekend. But she told me that on a Monday or Tuesday, it was the beginning of the week, and she said, the reason I'm telling you that is because I'm getting married this weekend, and I have to go out of town a few days ahead of Scott, you know, to make arrangements, and now that he's a married man, we don't feel it's right that you be here in the house.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want to inconvenience you, but is there any way you could stay with somebody else or just find another place? At the time I was waiting on a house in Gilbert, because I already knew they were getting married, so I was kind of looking anyway, and there was a great girl named Brenda, and she was waiting on her keys for the mortgage to go through, and it was a great ward, and it was a great house, and it was brand new construction and all that. It was really nice, but she didn't get her keys for months and months. I think she's in the house now, but I don't know, I haven't talked to her. So I scrambled. I went to the Institute, I wrote down a bunch of phone numbers, I called them all, a lot of them, I got voicemails. One girl that answered, her name was Tiffany, and she knew Travis, and she was at his services in Arizona and as well, and we've just remained friends sort of like on MySpace and Facebook and that kind of thing. But she said, hey, sorry, that's an outdated posting, I forgot to take it down, but go to this website. So ldshousing.net, I went there. I made 3 phone calls for the places that were within my price range. I didn't think to look where they were. The one girl that called me back, her name was Shannon Darricott. She said, here's my place, here's the directions, go ahead and go out and come see the house. It was available, so we did.
No, go ahead.
You have to get that?
No.
Okay. So I moved out there, and when Travis found out it was so close to him, he freaked out about it. And I made sure to check that it wasn't, that we wouldn't be in the same ward. And it was within his ward boundaries, but it was also within another singles ward boundary, so of course I'm gonna go the other one, because it would just be kind of weird. I mean, I didn't know about him and Lisa at first, so I don't know if they were even dating at that time. I don't know what their whole timeline was. But it still would have been weird, and it wouldn't have made Travis
Now,
very
during that
comfortable.
time that he was seeing Lisa, did you continue to see him as well?
Yeah, and I didn't know that he was seeing her.
Okay.
You know.
But he would call you and have you come over?
Yeah.
I know there was a time when you, I guess, were cleaning his house too for extra money or something.
Yeah, I did
He
that.
hired you.
Yeah, I did that, because he knew that I was struggling, and he's like, I've been doing the math, and that happened pretty much right on. I think that started in August. He's like, I've done the math, and I feel that I can be more protective. My time is more valuable than X amount of dollars per hour, so why don't I pay you this per hour, and I'll work, and you can make a little bit of money.
Okay.
So that helped.
That makes sense.
It
And that was
a
around the
win-win.
same time frame as the move and back and forth?
Yeah, it was like a few
and-
weeks after the move.
Okay.
I was still living with Rachel
Okay.
over on Greenfield
Okay.
when that started. And he sent me this picture, and he's like, this is your uniform, have it by Friday or Thursday or whatever, and it was this French made thing. I was like, no.
Yeah, that's him, typical.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's a very flirty guy. And
He is.
now, obviously the Rachel relation, or not
Lisa?
Rachel, Lisa relationship didn't work out, and then there was a time period he really wasn't seeing anybody, and then Mimi came into the picture. What did you think about her? And that
I didn't
whole
know a lot about her.
relationship?
She seems like a really nice girl. He showed me her picture on Facebook, you know. I don't think she had a lot of pictures on there. He said that he's not sure why, but he's pretty sure that she could be it.